I'm recording this 3 days after an unprecedented trial against Meta began in Oakland, California. Not so unprecedented because it's the second of this year. The lawsuit can be summarized as a contention against carefully designed interactions intended to hook users, retain them as long as possible, collect their data, and conceal the true purpose behind these experiences. I know this is reductive, for the lawsuit also argues that sexual exploitation of children is enabled by these systems. I deliberately restrict my argument because I have been addressing harm at different levels for a while already. Every day, I watch people of all ages tangled in endless scrolling. Cops, waiters, store clerks, gym goers, you name it, glued to their screens, consuming content the algorithm curates to keep their attention hostage to their devices. Meta denies the claims, of course. But if the business model requires capturing people's attention to harvest the data at scale, more will inevitably be better, by definition. I'm well aware of my hypocritical method, for I share my views through one of the most engagement center platforms. And that contradiction is not something I'm resolving today. Also, because I see great benefit in the opportunity social media offers to speak and broadcast our opinion. What I contend are the business models and methodologies. Close parenthesis. So I do have one or two things to say about this. When I think about the designers and product people behind these systems, I think about what Hannah Arendt called the banality of evil. The idea that ordinary people following ordinary incentives can participate in extraordinary harm without ever seeing themselves as the cause. My argument does not focus on the outcome. Arendt's concepts come from a very dark place in history, but rather on the creator's vulnerabilities. And I don't mean to judge, for I am as vulnerable to incentives as anybody else. I have considered applying for a job at Meta, Google, Microsoft, you name it, more than once. Incentives are powerful, but understand that designers and creators are not powerless, although we have behaved as though we were. For too long, the conversation has been about the value of creativity and design for business. And too rarely has a designer sat at the table where business decisions are actually made. And we know too little about those who have stood their ground and sacrificed their position for the right thing. This is partly a problem of principles and partly our own failure to speak the language that buys a seat at the table. We need to speak business administration. We need to understand finance to be able to translate creativity into numbers. Not a trivial task, I know. And this is not because business is the highest value, but because if we cannot operate at that level, someone else will make the decisions and hand us the brief. Universities share this responsibility. Design education that produces skilled executors, but not strategic thinkers, is education that serves the current system rather than challenging it. And that needs to change. Meanwhile, we do not have to wait for regulation to step in. We can choose to work with metrics aligned with people's actual goals, their productivity, their time, their progress. Metrics that treat the individual as sacred, not as an asset. In essence, we are not as innocent as our job titles suggest. And my argument is that we have more power to change things than we currently exercise.